and hit record. There we go. Great. So, welcome to our first of the Advent series, where myself, Reverend Julia, and Reverend Janice are going to walk you through each week of Advent with these deeper dives. And if you'd like to be following along with us, we're going right along with the Unity Christmas of Light and Peace, this year's wonderful Advent booklet. So we're so glad that you're here and decided to join us for this virtual special service each week.
I love this service that we've done, Julia. It's like a tradition we started last year, and I look forward to this year. I really did. So grateful for you, and grateful for all that we are as we embark on this incredible journey, beautiful journey of Advent. So, so right off, the Light and Peace Advent. It starts with the CEO of Unity World Headquarters, Jim Blake, and he's a real leader. He's really a leader. So I like to open with this because, you know, he's saying another holiday season is upon us, and it's up to us to rekindle our joy, to rekindle that spirit. Because, you know, I don't know if you've heard this, but I know that a lot of people are in challenges, and the world is in seeming turmoil. And sometimes we think that it's never been like this, when the truth is the world has always had challenges, and the turmoil has always been there. And reading this introduction, what he's really bringing to our awareness is it's up to us to turn within and to rekindle that Christ spirit that is in us. And when we do that, we become those torchbearers that Myrtle Fillmore, as another great light, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, became, giving birth to the Unity movement. And we do that, then we are truly leading by the example, truly living the principles that Jesus brought to us.
Yeah. And it can be, I love that he acknowledges that this isn't always automatically this season of cheer and peace, that's a difficulty for some people. And we get to acknowledge that it could be in our families, how we perceive the world around us and all of those things. But to know that despite all of that, it's our willingness to go into starting with hope and faith, to expect, right? I just did this talk last week about coming into this season with a grateful expectation. And we talked about Myrtle. I love that you bring her up, because that was my main idea in my talk, was that spirit responds how we expect it to. That's a quote from Myrtle Fillmore. It's one of my favorite quotes of hers, that spirit responds as we expect it to. And here we go with Advent, where we really line it up for how to do that, how to expect this good, and how to turn within and know that if it's to be, it's up to me to create this joy.
That. If it's to be, it's up to me. That says it all, you know. I am reminded too of, like, you know, because there is turmoil, and because there's always been turmoil, we also know there's better days ahead. There's always better days ahead. And we have the faith in us that we can get through challenges. And the hope is that there are better days. You know, but even though the better days really are now as well.
They are now, because everything happens now.
Everything happens now. Exactly. You know,
everything is happening now. And I love the idea of turmoil and something going on, because when we think of that Jesus story and Mary expecting, you know, look at all the, you know, even when you think of a pregnancy, you know, we think of like the turmoil and kind of the chaos that you go through before you do actually get to give birth. And so when we see turmoil, it's like, oh, good because we're on the edge of the next phase of our soul's evolution. It's
And this is
good.
the labor. This
Yes.
is the labor, and there's no better expression of that. And I have our little dog here who's very needy today.
I
So
love her.
she's part of the talks today. So,
I love
but
her.
yeah, it's faith and hope. I see faith as an inner kindling, and hope is, holding a vision of divine order, divine order, highest and best.
Yeah.
And what a way Jim is saying this as a leader, and
Yes.
how these unity principles help us walk in the world through whatever situation is occurring.
Yeah.
The great and throughout all of the human experiences, the wonder, the glory, the beauty, and the horror. Can we just embrace it?
Mm,
You know.
yeah.
So anyway, that was his introduction.
Yes. And then
And
we
then the
get
next
into
one,
this first week, right?
yes, yes,
This first week of hope and faith. I like that they really bring in all of the writers kind of brought in a little aspect of self-care. I don't know if you
yes,
picked up on that.
yeah,
That's been on my mind, and I've just finished teaching a self-care class. But, it's nice to know that I had this analogy come up that if something stops working in your technology, right? Like a computer or something, you have to sometimes you just have to turn it off and unplug it for a little bit. And then when you plug it back in, it works fine. Whatever the problem was kind of sorts itself out. And as human beings, we're not that different.
we have to reboot.
We have to reboot. And that's kind of what we mean by going into the silence, by, you know, taking the time to go within to give that to ourselves, right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we do it as we look at the second introduction in here, which is under what child is this?
Mhm.
Um, as we go within, as she says in here, we have this intellectual. We are intellectual beings and reasoning beings, but there's more to us than that. And
Yeah.
the intellectual side of me knew and understood, um, but while the intuitive side, what I was becoming, saw this as a lens through which I could look upon the world. What child is this? What's being born in me? Take that
Yeah.
song. What child is this?
Yeah.
What is being born, cultivated, nurtured within me, so that I can see through the lens of that which is gestating within me at this moment?
Yeah.
And if that doesn't create a little bit of turmoil within us,
Mm.
the emotionals and and she says here, the Christmas story, and I love this.
Yeah.
In their own way, the Christmas stories become the poetry of rebellion and the song of change that allows us to choose on which side of history will we land. Wow.
Mhm.
How will we show up for whatever is happening in our world? You
Yeah.
know, the poetry of rebellion and the song of change. Wow, I see that so different.
It feels like that. It feels like a rebellion because isn't there a part of us like when we're on that precipice, right, of that expansion? And that's what it is. I feel like my mind was so blown when I got it that, oh, the second coming is the birth of Christ within me. Oh, that happens for us individually, that this is an expansion of my awareness of my Christ. This is the coming of the awareness of my Christ consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And anytime we expand, aren't there things that, you could say your ego self or whatnot, but aren't there things that come up as a rebellion, things that you don't want to let go of, but you know that, it's probably the thought. It's something you're holding on to. It's something that kind of grabs at you before you allow yourself to fully move into your new awareness, your new consciousness.
I think Myrtle called it chemicalization. I
Yeah.
like the word rebellion, but I feel it's like it's chemicalization. We're shifting, we're gelling.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Something's
absolutely right. That's it.
happening with
That's
you.
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a
So
good place to be in.
when we see it that way, right?
Yeah.
When we see
Yes.
it, where we can see it that way. Yeah, we have to see it that way. And that brings in the third part of the introduction, making peace with grief at Christmas. It's
Yeah.
funny how they this is kind of the topic, uh, how to live through challenges or change.
Yeah.
When making peace with grief at Christmas is in difficult times, like the
Mm.
change in a relationship.
Yes.
Perhaps people are going through a divorce,
Yeah.
perhaps the death of a loved one,
Yeah.
or a situation where you can no longer live with your loved one.
Yeah.
Whatever is happening in your relationship, and I don't believe there's one worse than the other. There's no
Right.
hierarchy of it hurts, it hurts,
Yes. Yeah.
whatever you're going through. The way through it, you can't bypass this,
Okay.
is to accept our feelings. And
Yeah.
that goes right back to the self-care you were talking about, to accept our feelings and acknowledge that the sadness will come up. And
Mhm.
when you accept them and acknowledge and allow them, then we build within us, we become that space that we can hold the incredible joy or the sadness, and recognize in the midst of the sadness is joy.
Yeah.
Rejoice
Yeah.
in it, in these holy days, these
Yeah.
very holy days. Um, and it's all,
Absolutely.
yeah, and
Absolutely.
it's all
Because
about
it's a both and, right?
life is a both and. The
Yeah.
human spectrum
Yeah.
has,
It's a both and. It's all of it. And I think, what you're speaking into, the way that I've experienced that this past year is that most people know my dad died this year. And when we're talking about grief, it brought up so much of when my mom died, 13
yeah,
years ago. And what I put together for myself this time going through this and with all the renewed is that I'm not experiencing grief as I either have my grief or I have my joy, but I am in grief right now. I am in grief and I still get to experience my joy,
yes,
and because I get to acknowledge it and it's been being accepting of the both and it's a way for me to, as a human being, allow myself to have my full experience, right? To feel all of it and knowing that, we're not so compartmentalized. We're actually very nuanced and multidimensional, and we can be in grief and still feel our joy and still you know, have this healing and wholeness. So grief
and
is not brokenness. To me, grief is not a state of brokenness. I think that
not at all.
having
No,
this experience as a human being, right, this is temporary. Everything is going to change in our lives. Everything's going to come and go. Grief and loss is inevitable in on this journey.
right.
There's no way around it.
And we, like you just said, you can live in the midst of grief,
Grief. Hmm.
and also be appreciative of the joy and the good that is in your life, my
Yeah.
life at this moment.
Yeah.
Because grief, if we can start to see it, is love,
Yeah.
just love expressing, right? And the
Mhm.
tears that will come are clearing the way for the dawn again, to shine again. Doesn't diminish the grief, is it's just love,
It's
you
just
know
love.
it's just love expressing. So, and then as we accept that, then we can be mindful of the preciousness of this of what's occurring, all the good that is happening right now. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of good in us all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
So
think
that's,
there's some great advice in here too with the grief. Like if you are feeling lost and alone, plan not to isolate. I thought that was great
yeah,
to have connection. And you know what I really appreciated is that when we're going into this season to decide, this is a great permission. Decide which holiday traditions work for me and which ones to release and let go.
right. You can do
Because how many of us are
that.
creating? I know you're going to have your holidays are going to look different this year than last year. My holidays are going to look different this year than last year. And I know this makes me feel so good going into this, like, just because we're not doing everything we've done every single year before, it's not really going to be like Christmas. What it is.
Yes,
But
it is.
that's not what it's about.
Right. That's back to we have to make it. We
Yes.
have to choose to make it. We have to say yes to this gestation, to this change, to this new nature that is, and this new nature is happening in all of us, whether we want it or not.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of we want to choose to be conscious to it, to the great of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I like this, make this holiday season as much of a comfort as you can.
Mm,
But back to the self-care. You don't have
yes.
to make yourself crazy over
Right.
everything. You
Right.
can choose what you want to experience. How in my case right now, I've gotten out my decorations and I haven't told Stephen yet, but he's going to help me put them up
Your son. Yeah.
when he gets here. But not as many, just some,
That's
just
nice.
some, and that'll be just a little part of it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, so we
Take
move
care
on.
of it.
We move
Take
on to
care.
the first Sunday of Advent, hope and faith.
Oh, yeah. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. I love that this is all about this anticipation. We get into that feeling. And there's a reminder here right up front of what it's like to be a child,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because I was talking last week about the feeling signatures and
Uh-huh.
when it's like you want to get into the mood of that joyful expectation for whatever you're trying to create in your life or your enlightenment or your spiritual journey. But things around you, it's hard, right? Sometimes it's the things that I'm seeing aren't reflecting that. But but we can use our hearts, right? We can really use our hearts to create the feeling. And can you go back to being a child and what that anticipation was like, what that feeling of just knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt, Santa's coming and I'm going to play with my friends and all these wonderful things. You can use that. You can use that because you can't intellectualize your existence. That will only take you so far. But use your heart when you can, because this is where those feelings are. And I think you talk about this such a beautiful way whenever I've heard you talk about balancing the masculine and feminine and really allowing the heart mind connection
Mhm.
to get into these experiences.
Right, right, right.
Mhm.
And I like where it says in here, when we recall something in our past that was a fond memory, a nice memory. I think of something like, I wanted a certain item and it came and I just remember the excitement of it. And that echoes through me today. It
Yeah.
echoes. And I kind of want to give well, I did when my kids were younger. I wanted to give them that experience. And now my grandchildren to have that experience of that love that comes from
Yeah.
it. Doesn't have to be a big gift at all. It's just a little something, that the anticipation of just coming over to Nana's house.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
sure they don't want to stay forever, but just the anticipation of the fun for a few days, for a few hours, or for a few days, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And those memories form the traditions.
Yeah.
that we then have to change. And
Yeah.
that's okay.
But you
Because
can still have the feeling
yes,
in your new tradition. You can still have, you
absolutely.
can create it out of that out of the same feeling.
It's not in the ritual or the tradition, it's in us.
Yeah, it's in us, right?
Exactly.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's back to the self-care. We have to really give
Mm,
ourselves comfort so that the divine ideas come through that, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna make some cookies for them. I'm gonna make something.
mm,
It gets me to want to do something,
to want to.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, I had I know you're big on the being willing,
Uh-huh.
right?
We have
And
to be
there was
willing.
to be willing, right? Because it's there was one part on the 28th section where they're talking about regardless of how bad a situation seems and how many obstacles there are, I'm still going to boldly believe that my good will manifest. And for
Yes.
me, that's that willingness, right? And when I step into that space, then I want to do because I want to match it. You know, I want to match my expectations. Easier to manifest your good.
I love the way sometimes what I use is who am I, what I open my day with. Who am I willing to be in order to experience a great day? Who am I willing to be in order to experience a wonderful Thanksgiving dinner? Who am I willing to be? Not do. Who am I willing to be? You know,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What qualities am I willing to, of generosity, of kindness, of compassion, of forgiveness? Those
Yeah.
are the qualities I'm willing to be in the midst of whatever occurs.
Yeah.
And we can be guaranteed opportunities will show up for us to express those qualities if we're willing to be
Yes, it does.
them. Yeah, 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 yeah,
It does.
yeah.
How
So
cool.
that's really cool. So yeah, I like it. Bold hope, bold audacity. We have the audacity to know all is well.
Yeah. So can we say that, well, you know, if we're not to the level of faith yet, but opening that space for hope, can we
Yeah.
say that that's a new type of response like they're talking about to a life challenge, right? That doesn't
Mhm.
involve frustration, fear, worry, or resignation, but hope, having hope, using hope, we can use hope as a spiritual tool, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Awesome. I think that's
faith
a
is.
different way of thinking about it, but that's how it works.
Uh-huh. Right. Right. Um, I like it where it says here, we are the ones who feed the hungry, care for the sick,
Yeah.
offer compassion. We do this with a knowing faith. We are the heart, the voice, the arms, and the feet of God.
Hmm.
Um, so to me,
Yeah.
faith is the inward knowing, and hope is how can we support that,
Mm.
whatever vision we're in the midst of expressing, you know.
Yeah. And I like that this is one of the core messages of Jesus, that this is the teaching. We're the heart, the voice,
Yeah,
the arms, and you know, I always go to the hands. We're the hands of God, you know,
yeah,
it's look at your hands, bless your hands. These are the hands that
right.
express God into the world, right?
And the more people who know that, the more hope there is
That, you
for the
know,
world.
yes.
Yeah,
Could you
much.
imagine a world where this is when that Elizabeth Longo wrote her last quote. With an open, generous heart, bursting with love and joy, I go forth this season being a presence of light and peace wherever I am. So it's an affirmation. And
Yes,
I just imagine like what would it be like if we all were committed to that, to embodying that, you know, if everybody was committed to being a presence of light and peace. Because like what you said, what am I being when I'm in the season, when I'm in the circumstances and everything, you know, when somebody's committed to being a space of peace and light. Wow. Hmm. Amazing.
that's
Amazing.
who we are if we choose to be. We
Yes.
are those light bearers. As Jesus has said to us, ye are gods, ye are the light of the world. I
Yeah.
am the light of the
Yeah.
world. I am the way. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine.
Yeah.
And we can only do that by igniting it, cultivating it, protecting it, and giving it. Because
Mhm.
it doesn't do
Mhm.
it any good if we don't give it. Give it, let it out,
Mhm.
kind of a thing.
Yeah. To extend that compassion, love, and peace, to extend it to ourselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I love
Yeah.
this affirmation. On this day of Advent, my faith is strong and I am at peace. That's on the Wednesday.
Faith is strong and I am at peace.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's a great one to take into this.
I think of a candle, and you hold a candle in a basin or in a vase, and the
Yeah.
candle's burning, and you hold it out, but you're protecting the candle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
From blowing out. But we're, as Jim Rosemond used to say, we are the wick in the candle. We are what makes the candle work, the light. We are what spreads that light. Without
Yeah.
us, it's of no,
Yeah.
it doesn't help.
Nothing's happening. Nothing's
Nothing's
happening.
happening
Right.
without us.
Right.
Nothing happens
Right.
without us. So we
Right.
want to be, nevertheless, I am willing to be these qualities of,
Yeah.
or let them through me. Let the qualities, I think that's a better way. Nevertheless, I'm willing to allow myself to be a place of peace where those qualities can be expressed through
Mm.
me into the world and into whatever situation is happening.
Mm.
And so then
Mm.
on the Thursday, it's
Yeah.
talking about uh, that divine impulse.
Yeah. And
We,
that and getting there through the child experience, right?
yes, yes. And children, I mean, that's the key, isn't it? Children learn to walk or ride a bike. You learn anything, and you got to be okay with knowing that in the falling down, in the not doing it right, you're honing your skill. You're not doing anything
Hmm.
wrong. You're honing your skill. You're
Yeah.
honing your creative broad stroke,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's seeing that,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
taking
And
that.
I think that knowing that in terms of practicing our way of being,
Yes,
because we could be all peaceful and light centered and something's going to happen. Okay, well, we're not done for the day now. We'll start over tomorrow. We acknowledge it and we come back.
right.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But there's that. I like here it says the divine impulse to move meets their unwavering belief that they can. That's what we have to keep within us. That if something doesn't go quite the way we wanted it to, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean we did anything wrong. We're
Doesn't mean we did anything
at
wrong.
all. There's no right or wrong in this at all. There's just, do you want to have this experience or not?
Yeah.
You choose to hone your skill in this and have this experience, or not.
Mm.
So I like this scripture. By faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God. So what world are we creating?
Mm.
We're the word of God. If we speak
Mhm.
as the Christ, we are creating our world. Our world is being created by our words.
Yeah.
You know,
Now we're getting really into that deep, deep. Hey, we're out picturing our lives and we're creating our very experience with every word that we speak. Right?
really,
That's how powerful we are.
yes.
That's how,
And I love the little statement. Thoughts are prayers, and we are
yeah.
always praying. We are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers.
Hmm.
And so, and going into the silence and going into coming from source isn't having to stay and practice meditation for 4 hours or 2 hours. It is taking a breath and
Yeah.
coming from that inner stillness,
Yeah.
you know, because it's kind of funny because I was talking to someone the other day and they were saying how long that they have to meditate, you know. Well, does it bring you the peace when you're out in the world? That's what you were talking about just earlier.
Yeah. Yes.
Become
Yeah.
very peaceful and poised if you're all by yourself and quiet and loving and kind and really uplifted, but you then have to take it that out into the world.
Yes. I think
Very,
that's when we do that, like the spiritual tithing, right? Like the metaphysical example of tithing and holding in the
yes,
10%. I think
yes,
that's a good example. And if anyone hasn't done it, like come see us so we can show you. But that's it, because I think that it's being able to access, so if you practice yourself in meditation into a state of awareness of communion with the very essence and presence of God, knowing that you are inseparable from it, or, whatever. Meditation is releasing, right? It's not about getting to, it's about letting go of so that you can go within, because everything is in here, right? It's cultivating, for me anyway, it's cultivating an awareness. And in life circumstances that you'd throw me off completely, I can remember that in that moment, that I can get myself into that state of awareness without having to sit for half an hour in meditation, that I can bring this with me as I move through my day.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking about this, especially when we're saying, when we did talk about keeping 10% of your awareness inward, which is
Yeah.
what you're talking
Yes.
about. Yes.
Yes.
Think about being around a dining room table with a group of Uncle Joes and Aunt Melissa, whatever, with all different
Yeah.
worldviews. And if
Yes.
we're going to be the Christ, then we need to, or show up as the presence of love, then we need to practice keeping 10% of our attention inwards so we can allow other people to be who they are without
Mm,
having a problem with who they are, because there is no problem with who they are
there's no
unless we
problem.
make it,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and that's so important too. And that's a pure practice of
It
taking up
is. It is. And that happens in families.
always. It
That's a
happens
good
everywhere.
That's a spiritual practice of, I
Yes,
have my worldview and you have your worldview, and here we are having dinner together, and we don't have to make each other agree with each other. It's just,
exactly.
yeah,
Maybe that's why Jesus was always breaking bread with all sorts of different people to
yeah.
show that every person, no matter whatever background, color, sexual orientations, their gender, we are all of the same Father, Mother God in
Yes.
unity. We are all sourced by the same Abba, by the same essence.
Mhm.
And we just out picture in just so many different ways. So can we allow that? And that's a huge spiritual practice.
It is. It's a good one.
Yeah, it is. So then on the Friday, uh, what helps us then, if we take whatever challenges may come up into the silence and listen, spirit
Mhm.
speaks truth.
Yeah.
um what does that say? To
Yeah.
me, truth is allowing the qualities of spirit to be expressed in situations that really need it at that moment. Kindness.
Mm,
But it says silence doesn't necessarily mean without sound.
right.
Truth speaks in language without limitations, spoken and not, audible and not, logical and not. Would it be okay if when we're sitting around those tables and someone is saying certain things that we don't necessarily are not on our bandwidth,
Mm,
we could just be silent. We don't have to say anything. We can just
mm,
allow and love them from the silence.
yeah. Absolutely. I love that having faith that truth speaks only love, goodness, and wholeness, right? Having the
Yeah.
faith in truth. And if we can be with each other and be with and not feel that we have to fix or change, it's a
Oh,
practice of accepting
yes. Or
the
getting them to
the
yeah,
absolute truth of love and good and seeing one another as an expression of the Christ.
right.
Yeah.
Expression of light and peace.
Yeah.
We can't
Yes.
see it if we can't be it.
Yes. 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 Yes.
See it to be it. Yeah, yeah. So
I love it.
it's like it says here, what you were saying, discerning between the word of God, which is love, the word of truth, and
Mhm.
extraneous noise becomes simpler.
Yeah.
Because everyone is at a different level of their concepts of who God is
Absolutely.
or what God is or what the story is about. And can we just be okay that it's also a universal story of peace and goodwill towards all? So maybe we better start practicing peace and goodwill towards all at a very basic level before
Yeah.
we could take it even deeper.
Yeah.
Just honoring each other's different views,
Mhm.
you know,
I
just
believe that is yeah, absolutely. Yes, and being gentle with ourselves to be able to create that space within ourselves. It takes an inner peace, right? It takes that being the light.
yes, yes,
Very
yeah,
healing, very healing. So we're opening to sacred energy. I love that this is kind of like the last piece of hope and faith.
on Saturday right now. Are we on?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And we're grounded in spirit and we're opening to sacred energy. I think that's a really great visual that I would take away from this week. And
Yes,
I'm walking forward, being open to sacred energy because it's that ultimate, it's that healing, it's the wholeness that we experience, knowing that we express Christ and we're able to see Christ in others, that unwavering belief. I'm opening. I'm becoming receptive to embody that.
yeah, and I like the birth of Jesus, represents globally, universally to who doesn't love a baby, a
Yeah.
child. It's bringing love to the world. I mean, I don't care what your culture is.
Mhm.
A newborn is a pure bundle of love,
Mhm.
just pure love. So the birth of Jesus represents the awakening to that power that's within us. We have that power in us to love no matter what. And
Yeah.
especially to be able to
Unconditionally. Mm.
un- love it. Yes, unconditional, unadulterated love,
Yes.
you know,
Radical, radical.
radical love. I like
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
Radical, radical love, revolutionary love.
Yeah.
Because Jesus was a
Yeah.
revolutionary,
Yes.
evolutionary to revolutionary, you know? Yeah. And,
Absolutely.
and when we are, like you said, firmly grounded in spirit, then those candlelight rituals, those
Mhm.
traditional, beautiful dinners,
Yeah, I love that.
paired with, I was watching with David the other day, one of the Christmas movies for a short time, Chevy Chase and the lighting of where the
Yeah.
whole house goes on like
Oh, yeah.
this the crazy uncle shows
A
and
good
just
one.
all the stuff and that movie it's also so relevant to all of us, but can we just love it? And there's
Yeah.
a little girl there that just is full of love, who's the niece, and she
Yeah.
just loves being in their house rather than with her life kind of
Yeah.
out on the road, and
No,
and
yeah.
helping the actor Chevy Chase to wake up to what he has. It's always through a child, you know
Mhm.
that wakes us up to our incredible uh, what we have, who we are, what we
Yeah.
have, the love inside us,
Appreciation.
yeah, appreciation.
Yeah.
So that
I
when we
love
allow that, then we really, and even in that movie, he all of a sudden the spontaneous giving. And you can look at other
Yes.
movies such as Scrooge or any of them. The moment this love is born in us, which is represented by Jesus in the world or in this story, right? The moment we capture that love is born in us, then we want to go out and sing it on the mountain.
Yeah.
Give everything from Scrooge wanting to go and buy this and buy that to Chevy Chase wanting to buy everything for his
Yeah.
for his brother and whatnot. But and even all those lights that went on the house that blew the circuits, it was an expression of light.
Yes.
Just wanting
Yes.
more light, more light. Let there be light. Yeah. Of
I love that you turned National Lampoon into a spiritual lesson.
course,
Right.
we can. That's the gift of Unity Ministers. We can turn
Absolutely.
it on.
How
So yeah,
awesome.
yeah. But I mean, there's so many. If you're open to it, every
Yeah,
story is so rich,
it is. Yeah,
rich
absolutely.
with opportunities to get your ego in line with the spirit and
Yeah,
and let love lead.
and
Just
love lead.
let love
Yes,
lead. Let love lead. So,
that's
oh,
beautiful. And I love the giving because like I think that's a great note for us to wrap it up on because
this thing.
it all puts you the yes, there is an aspect that you want to give. And I think, when we think about like Santa Claus and being parents and watching kids open gifts, it's like that Santa Claus spirit, that aspect takes away your need to or you getting to be acknowledged and thanked for the gift. You know what I mean? Like that like kind of like ego thing, it kind of goes away. We get gratitude from our kids year round. That's fine. But I think that watching them open a gift and you not having the credit for it, it just allows you to experience the joy with them. It just allows it's a different, it's like it's that giving, knowing that, when we give, it's receiving, right? It's when
The
we
moment
give,
you
the
give.
moment you give is when you receive. And it brings us into this really deeper level, if we wanted to, of
Yeah,
oneness. Because when we give, who are we giving to?
yeah, yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah. And who are we helping? We're helping ourselves, and it's automatic. So I love that seeing Santa Claus is that way. Is it like it lifts a little layer of ego away and just
Um,
puts you in that space of giving with nothing to return because, this was from Santa.
yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, how neat. How neat. I love it.
Well, this was a really beautiful experience, as always, Julia. Our
Yeah, it
first
was fun.
Advent walk, our first looking into faith and hope. And next week
What a
we
good
will.
start.
It is, and I pray that everyone who watches this, you and all of us, have a very very grateful and happy Thanksgiving. Know who we are and appreciate all the unique. And as we can see, my dog is going to kiss me here. And appreciate all the unique uh, qualities that our family brings.
Yeah,
All the
as we
joy
begin this season.
as we begin the season, right? All the
Hmm.
different lenses. May our lens be clear so that we can see clearly the love that we're surrounded by all the time. So the
That's
next time
beautiful.
we are going to talk about peace.
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 Yes.
Peace.
Get your Advent booklets.
Yes. God bless. Thank you. Good night,
Very wonderful.
everybody.
Thank you, Reverend Janice.
Thank you, Reverend Julia.